Hello everyone, I'm Grandmaster Priyadharshan Kannappan and you're watching Gyaan YouTube channel. And the episode we are going to be talking today is Dashing D2 Square and the series is Checkmates in Chess. So, if you had watched our previous videos in this series, you would have known that we give a position to solve in the previous episode. And in the checkmate on E2 episode, I had given you this particular position and I'd asked you to kind of find out the solution on your own, think about it and solve it. So here I would like to, share the solution with you and then go ahead with the new topic that we have, which is the checkmates that happen on the D2 square of the chessboard. So the position here is white to play, and white starts with the most forcing move that's possible here, which is rook takes g7, then check. And the point of it being, we are dragging the black king outside the safe zone, which was earlier this knight and bishop kind of, keeping the black king safe. By rook takes g7, black is forced to capture king takes g7 as this bishop is pinned because the queen is kind of, pinning and bishop cannot capture the rook. So king g7 becomes forced. And now we bring a new piece into the attack, and that is rook g1 with a check. And here the black king has to go either h6 or h8. H8 is just terrible because you immediately get checkmated with queen takes f8. So black decides to go for rook g1 check, that he will go king h6. And I hope you have seen the checkmate now. It's a checkmate in 2 and it starts with knight f5 check, and after king goes to h5, which is the only move for the king, you drop back with your queen with a check. Kind of dropping back moves that go behind is something that's very easy to miss generally for all levels of chess player. So you have to be very very careful about looking for moves that where you come back with your pieces. And here queen e2 is a checkmate as all the exit squares are controlled by the white pieces, as you can see over here, and the white queen is attacking the king and the black king can't block the check or move away from the check or capture the queen, which is giving the check on the king. So here we have a checkmate. So now let's move on to the new episode content here. So we have been talking about checkmates on d2 squares. So let me flip the board, and as you would see here, white's king is in the kind of center of the board. Generally, it's appreciated that the king's in center of board in endgame, but not in this particular case, because if you do look at it, what's really the escape square for the king on e4? It can't go to d5, it can't go to d4 or d3 or e5 or f5 or f4 or e3. Its only square possible is f3, but as I said, it's black to play. And if you look at it, why the king can't go to any of the squares that are marked in red, the simple answer is in most squares, this rook is controlling the d file. So this square, these three are inaccessible because of that reason. E5 is inaccessible because there's a pawn that's kind of controlling and also the knight controlling it. And f4 is inaccessible because this pawn is controlling it. And knight on e3 and bishop on f5 are white's own pieces that are blocking the white king from stepping into those squares. So the only square that's accessible is the f3 square. If it's white to play, white would be happily capturing king takes f3 and take the black knight, but it's black to play and black plays this nice little check, knight d2, and now it's a checkmate because the knight has moved, but at the same time knight is checking the king, and also knight is keeping an eye on controlling the f3 square, and the king can't go anywhere, so it's a checkmate. So now let us move on to the next example. So this position is also black to play, and I would suggest the viewers to pause the video, think about it. It's a fairly easy solution in my opinion, so you all would be able to find it. Pause the video, think about what move would you play if you had the black pieces here, and now I will reveal the solution. So the checkmating move is bishop going to d2 with a check. And it's not just a check, as there's no escape squares for the king because all these squares that I'm just marking or controlled by the black pieces. The king can't go anywhere. That does mean it's a checkmate here, right? So bishop b2 and it's a checkmate. That was a very simple checkmate in one. So now let's move on to the next example that I have for you all. So here in this position, looks like an equal material, right? White has a king, black has a king, white has two bishops, black has two bishops, white has two pawns, black has two pawns. But as it's white to play, and if you look at this king on h6, it's very, very strangely positioned, I would say, because the only escape squares that it currently has is g5 and h5. So if we can control both at the same time and give a check to the king, it becomes a checkmate, right? So white spots his chance and white goes king h4. So now this two squares which we had marked earlier as possible exit squares for the black king is now controlled by the white piece, right? King h4 blocks the black king from entering to h5 or g5. So the next step for white should be to give a check. So as it's black to play, black kind of decides, okay, I'll take the pawn. Bishop h5 looks like the pawn is free. But here, white delivers the checkmate with this nice little bishop check, bishop to d2, and the king cannot go to g6 or h7. These two squares are not possibly accessible because there's a bishop controlling g6 and h7, and the king cannot go to g7 because there's a pawn controlling the g7 square. And with this check, it's a checkmate, and white wins the game. So let's move on to the final position that we have today, and this is going to be your homework position also. So where you can think about it, try to solve it on your own time. Think as much time as you have, try to solve it, and I will share the solution with you on the next video. So before I go away, I just want to say you this is a black to play position, and I flipped the board for your convenience. And if you look at it, there may not be a forced mate, but if there's no forced mate, that does mean it's like most likely the continuation would lead to a line where black wins a huge amount of material and kind of something like that. And if you do see spot a forced mate, I won't be able to say like exact number of moves. Sometimes that could be a few additional checks and so on. But it's black is winning for sure, and it's a very nice little combination of moves here, I would say. So do wear your thinking hat and try to find the best way how you would checkmate the white king here, or how you would try to win against the white pieces. And don't forget, in this game also there was a checkmate that was delivered on the d2 square. So that's a big hint that you have here. So signing off as Grandmaster Priyadharshan. Do subscribe to the channel, hit on the bell icon for instant updates. I will see you all soon in a new video. Bye bye everyone.